You are listening to the Billy Dees podcast.
All right. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the program. As always, I am absolutely thrilled that you are here. If you've never checked us out before, we are primarily an interview and a commentary-based podcast. My name is Billy Dees, and tonight we're live. And also, we're doing like a simulcast. So with me, my co-host tonight is Cynthia Elliott. And she's passing this through as well. And tell us, I know you've got a little rebranding going on with your program. What exactly is that again?
Yeah, you know, the podcast was Glow Up with Shaman Isis for a while now. And with all the work that I'm doing in the foundation, we decided to just make the name Soul Tech with Shaman Isis because it fits with the Soul Tech Foundation. So we're excited to get those episodes out there. We'll be doing some in-person interviews, which I'm very excited about.
Sure, absolutely. Sounds great. A lot going on, and we're going to talk about as many things as we can. And usually these things run less than an hour. I'm not a big believer in those shows that go on endlessly.
Oh,
I know it's ridiculous.
3 hours. I'm like, 3 hours. Who wants to listen to anybody talk for 3 hours?
You better be talking about selling gold bricks for a quarter. Right. Something like that. Okay. Iran probably is one of the things that is out in the forefront along with ICE. Those are kind of the two major things we're going to talk about. And there's a couple of other things too, some remarks that some people have made and put them in the public arena to be discussed. Let's start with ICE, I guess, because that's the one that's really, really hot.
Yeah.
Did you want me to maybe just give something, a little synopsis of my opinion there, and then we can go from there? Does that sound good?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
You know, we live right now in times where everything is either Gestapo or it's the other direction. It's passive. Just let people do whatever they want. And there doesn't seem to be much middle ground. And as far as the ICE situation goes, I believe most people were for these, and I am too, for the most part, when the understanding was, you know, the Venezuelan gangs and violent criminals and so forth. I'm 100% for that. There is no reason that someone who just ran across the border, completely unchecked, completely unvetted, should be running around in the United States doing whatever that is that they are doing. Okay, I want to be clear about that. In essence, I do support ICE. I think where they've gotten into problems with optics is, you know, you got a dishwasher in the back of some store who's been in the country for 20 years, and they got him on a dolly in a straitjacket with a mask over his face, like he's Hannibal Lecter, being wheeled out of the place. I think that is where they've gotten into trouble. Now, specifically with this shooting, I've been very consistent over the years. You know, getting into what happened with that young lady and Renee Good. Here's the thing. We've all seen the video, and it's amazing to me how people can watch the same video and see two different things. If you take that, maybe some of the fatalities that happened during the social justice riots a few years ago, and that's what they were riots. Even what happened at the Capitol building with the fatality there. I'm very consistent on this. I would say in a lot of those cases, maybe the law enforcement people were a little trigger happy. Now, at the same time, when you go somewhere, and here again, I'm consistent on this. I don't care what the cause is. When you're breaking windows, when you're jumping up and down on cars, when you're entering buildings, when you're forcing your way into buildings, when you're impeding law enforcement, when you're, creating a blockage with your car, you're doing all of these kind of things. You can mitigate out what the law enforcement should have that done. Was it too extreme? Was it, whatever. You can go through all that, but the bottom line is this. In this country, we're all for going somewhere and raising hell, but when the devil finds us first, then it wasn't fair. When you go somewhere looking for trouble, you can't complain when you find it. And we in this country have this notion that we can go do whatever we want. We can spit in the face of police officers. We can lay down in front of ambulances and police cars who are trying to get through. We can do all this kind of stuff. But if we happen to get hurt, well, that's unfair. That's extreme. So I don't. Me personally, this shooting this person, it obviously it's a tragedy, and no, I'm not one of these nut cases that's out of it, and certainly not celebrating it, but making light of it. Anytime human life, and this goes for J6 too, anytime human life is taken, it's a tragedy. It shouldn't have happened. It's horrible. All right. But I don't call any of these victims, quote unquote, innocent. Who I do call innocent is the young woman who is sitting on the train, looking at her phone, minding her own business, and got her throat cut. That is an innocent victim. There was another one who was burned alive on the train, and people stood by and watched. And a lot of that I understand. And I'm terrible, but people are reluctant to get involved because if you mitigate a terrorist attack, you might get arrested, especially in New York, with as upside down as everything is. There was another jogger here again, strangled to death. Those are innocent victims. They were doing just whatever they needed to do to get through the day, weren't bothering anybody. To me, those are innocent victims, and the left is totally silent on them all. They could give a shit about them. Okay. I don't like to see people get killed by law enforcement. I don't like to see these situations happen. But to say these are just hapless victims being gunned down by the Gestapo is also very incorrect. So that's my take on that, Cynthia. You go right ahead.
Yeah. Great share, Billy. I totally agree with you. So, the biggest problem with all of this is that the Democratic Party, the left-leaning liberal, their entire self-esteem, personality, purpose has become tied to the beliefs that they have, that they've been able to revel in for years and shove down everybody's throats for years and years. And they got really used to being in power because they were in power for many of the last 20 years. And when you combine that with the Trump derangement syndrome and also the influence of some pretty sick parties that have been using how easy they are to gaslight and manipulate, to get them to fight for things that they want. Like if you notice that they're dead silent on Iran, they're dead silent on all of these horrific murders and things like that. So the frustration here is that they like to cherry pick very specific scenarios that they get behind and then ignore everything else. And so they want to position things in a way that makes them fuels their useful, the feeling of being useful again. Hopefully this is making sense. And so they're just scanning everything and they're finding the thing that fits. It's like they just keep going through all the puzzle pieces. Oh, that fits what I'm used to talking about. It's what I'm used to saying. What's the victimhood, the victim profile that really works for us and makes me feel good about myself. And then they use it to gaslight everybody. They've gotten to the place I've actually asked myself, and I've done this on social media, where I'm like, what kind of mental illness is actually going on? Because the derangement, not even just about Trump, just about all situations that are happening is so extreme that it's absolutely breathtaking. They want to, they made fun of Charlie Kirk pretty horrificaally. They made fun of little girls that died in a summer camp because they assumed who their parents were voting for. Yeah. Like they made fun of. So they want to cherry pick the victim, and they want to ignore some realities. They're all for law and order when it works for them, and then they're totally against it and want to riot and break things when it doesn't work for them. And it's gotten so out of control that it's become a poison in this country. They have evolved into what I believe is a domestic terrorism organization because they've become so extreme they can't even think straight or see straight. The reality is, look, I lived in San Diego back in the 90s, and I knew tons of people who would come over the border. They would work in this country, and then they would go back. Some of them would stay here. And I understand why we want to hug and protect those people. The problem is they stood by silently while millions of people were allowed into this country, many of them criminals with horrible criminal records on the run from their own government. Yeah. These were people who were running away from horrific, some of them were running away from horrific situations, but they brought that garbage with them. They did no vetting, no investigation. These people were just allowed to pour over. And the problem with all of that, no matter what it's not even about immigration. Like everyone should be here going through the process the way that it works. And, I tell this story all the time because it really took my breath away. I was at dinner a few months, like last year in Brooklyn with a friend of mine. And she said, I just really believe that we should have open borders and allow everybody to come in. And I was like, that is so sweet. It's so sweet. So what happens if one of them rapes your child? What are you going to do? What do you tell the parent of one of these? I looked up the statistics of how many young children have been raped and murdered just since 2024. And it was astonishing how many people in this country have been hurt, harmed, raped, murdered by illegal immigrants. And the problem when this is said to her is like, you can't trace them. What is so hard? What is so hard to understand about the fact that we cannot have people in this country that we cannot track or trace? Because when they commit horrific crimes, or if they commit horrific crimes, or if we need to ask them questions as a witness to something, whatever it is, like the rest of American citizens do, we need to be able to track them. And the fact that they just can't have that conversation, and I'll just finish up with this. Sure. It goes back to reminding me of a narcissist. This entire situation with left-leaning liberals reminds me of a relationship with a narcissist where they evade every question, they evade common sense, they evade critical thinking, and they just keep cherry picking things and keep trying to gaslight you and change the direction of the camera to make sure that they keep the anxiety and fear up within their own people. And they're trying to pull people from, the middle and maybe even the right over to their side of thinking, but it's lunacy. Yeah. And so, this whole thing with ICE is like the Democratic Party allowed millions of untraceable people into this country. Mm-hmm. End of story. We have to get them out and have them go through the process. If you're supposed to be here in America, don't worry. You can try to come back in and go through the process like all the other people who've immigrated for hundreds of years. Those are my thoughts.
Obama had a pretty aggressive deportation policy. And a lot of people have asked, why wasn't there, the trouble and the violence then? And it was because the media and everybody else, all the left-wing wackos, were not in the streets interfering. Mm-hmm. That's the thing now. It has become cool to interfere with what federal people are doing when it comes to their assignments. And I think it's all part of this, the Nick Shirley thing was a good example too. Now, what he uncovered was absolutely, he did a great thing. Okay. But the bigger picture is, and what I want to point out in all this, is this idea of social media journalists who are going places with a phone in their hand and very boldly stand where a riot is happening, very boldly stand where an arrest is happening. Sooner or later, these individuals, one of them is going to get themselves killed. Now, and then whose fault is that going to be? Well, it's not going to be theirs. Okay. And I really think that, I like the idea of citizen journalism. If you're investigating fraud and you're going through tax records and all this, that's great stuff. Okay. When you are stepping in the middle of a shootout and you're videotaping, at that point, I don't know if these people feel because they have a camera and they're shooting that they're immune.
Yeah, I think they think it's like some kind of shield, and it's like you're interfering. Which was never okay. And I promise you, if Republicans had been doing any of these things, at anything related to Biden or any of their favorite, toys like Obama, who did ship out millions of people and put them in cages and did all the same things that are happening right now. But it's all about who gave the order. That's all it is. The only difference between 10 years ago and now is who gave the order to do the same exact thing.
Yeah. And I got to tell you, the Republicans in the last few years, certainly, they've been wanting stronger borders. But if you go back 20 and 30 and 40 years, let's say from the Reagan administration forward, both parties have played games, have played political politics with the border. Mm-hmm. A lot of them came across when Bush was president. So this is, I don't understand how border security is a political partisan issue. Yeah. Kennedy of Louisiana, the senator out there, I've quoted him before. I think this is so good. He said that when you lock your doors at night, it's not because you hate everybody that's outside. It's because you don't want anybody coming into your home that you don't know. It's that simple. The idea that it's fascism and racism and all this other kind of stuff, it's just a common sense security.
Yeah, well, the border didn't become a political football until Democrats started to notice how many people that were part of their party had been immigrants. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden they were like, oh, these people that we let in over the border seem to be for us. I think that's what ultimately eventually led to them like going, let's just drop the border and just let millions of them in. We can turn them into voters. That's what turned it into a political football.
Yeah. And that's where this, no voter ID, that's oppressive to ask for an ID before you vote, which is ridiculous.
I had to show my ID to vote in New York. Like what?
The idea that, you can't access hardly anything, in terms of governmental services. You can't, I don't even know that you can get a post office box without showing an ID.
No, I'm pretty sure you can't. Yeah.
To go to the hospital, go whatever. I don't care what it is. You're going to have to show an ID. And the idea that all of a sudden, you're going to show an ID before you vote, and this is how somehow oppressive, is just absolutely ridiculous. It really is. And I don't know. I find it hard to believe that Democrats sell this stuff as effectively as they do. Are there really that many people out there? And here again, crazy ideas are not exclusive to Democrats. Okay.
Oh, I know. I think that actually, to be honest with you, I think this involves a lot of money. People have been, and I have a theory that the like Islamic extremists and people like that have been playing games with liberals to use them as a tool, because they've been like, if you notice, the liberals are they're dead silent on Iran, even though thousands of people, a lot of them young people, are being murdered in cold blood in the streets of Iran. And they haven't said, I've not heard one of them say anything. And the fact that none of the Democrats talk about the billions of dollars. They said they found $700 million in suitcases in an airport in Minnesota, and you hear nothing. So they don't care about the American people being robbed. They don't care about children being raped and murdered. They don't care about women feeling fear in the streets that they didn't used to feel before. They don't care that our major cities in the country are absolutely have disintegrated under the onslaught of people who don't care about this country, because they let millions of people in here who think they're going to change the country to that same place they just supposedly ran from. So the whole thing is just a hot mess, and I'm all for getting them all out. Yeah. And that may sound cold, but they're here illegally. Like, I break a law, I have to pay for it. Why is that? Why do they have some kind of immunity? Yeah. Because liberals are being encouraged to go extremes with this, because other people want to. I mean, like other people, parties like the George Soroses of the world, they've been trying to create chaos in this country for decades.
Yeah. To kind of shift gears, and this does tie in, because, people, I've heard the left say, why should we criticize Iran when our ICE agents are out there shooting American citizens just like they are? It's absolutely ridiculous. Calling it a false equivalency doesn't even begin to describe it. But there are people out there, college students, dumbasses, that are just eating this up. And from what I understand, it's hard to gauge exactly how bad it is in Iran. but suffice it to say, there's probably thousands of people that have been either seriously injured or killed. And, the body bags, the people that have escaped with the stories, all these other kind of things. If this was Israel doing this, there'd be riots in the streets right now. There would be, on every college campus would be turned upside down.
Which is one of the reasons why it's my theory that Israel's arch enemies are behind a lot of what's going on with the left and the Democrats. I really believe. Yeah, I believe there's a lot of truth to that. If Israel was doing this extreme, it's craziness.
Yeah. The question that a lot of people have about Iran is, should or should not the United States get involved? Now, I don't think anybody is suggesting that we have a ground presence in Iran. I don't think anybody's suggesting that. But in the idea of strikes to weaken the regime while their backs are against the wall with their own citizenry, there's a lot of people that are for that. And that's a powder keg. A lot could go one way or the other. A lot of people say Obama missed an opportunity.
He was such a wimp on international. Yeah. Like, it was so embarrassing when he would wussy out. Ugh, made me cringe.
I believe in 2009, Iran had something similar going on, and a lot of people criticized him for not coming out publicly and supporting the people.
Yeah,
and possibly doing something. Okay, so now Trump is in the same position. Trump is being told by a lot of other countries in the region to stay out of it. And I think he's being influenced by that.
I agree with you. I really hope we intervene. I really do. I don't want us to have ground troops, but if we could do like a Venezuela, and just help. I mean, I remember when I was really, really, really young, the pictures and video of, coming out of Iran. Women dressed how they wanted to. They had freedom. Yes. Now they look like they're wearing head to toe trash bags. They're not allowed to show. And he openly speaks about women as animals to be used like cow. Mm-hmm. Yeah, cattle. It's so insulting. It's like, how are we okay with this? Like, we interfere in all sorts of crap. This one, I would be fine with. Let's go in and just take him out.
I would probably be okay with it too. I think, and I'm due to interview, by the way, an Iranian activist next week. And if it goes as planned, she'll be on the show next week. I think that in this case, this is completely different. I was totally against the move in Iraq when we went in there. I was totally against that. And I supported the country once the decision was made. But I was very tepid on going in there. Bush's own father said taking the country militarily would be easy. Policing it would be another. That's why he didn't do it back in the early 90s. And that's exactly what happened. And we're not talking about that here. What we're talking about is strategic strikes to weaken the regime so that the public there, the citizens can affect change themselves. Go ahead.
Yeah, I know. I was like you. I was very against it because I'm afraid for us to intervene when we can really help, but because I'm intuitive and I can feel when a country's ready to evolve their own choices and what they're willing to tolerate, what they're willing to do to make change happen. And I could feel that wasn't there. It just felt like a war machine thing that we were doing. I was like, what are we doing? It's never going to end. But I really feel the temperature of the Iranian people. Like they want to change. They are sick of it. Their money means nothing at this point. There's hunger. There's all sorts of issues there, like severe issues there. And if they don't do something, it's just going to keep getting worse because he's clearly an idiot and a megalomaniac.
Mm-hmm. The idea that Iran in particular, there was a time, like you said, if you go back to the 1970s, it looked very much like Miami Beach. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was very westernized. And the idea that this is an old school Islamic state really is not true. They were very westernized, very progressive, and there's a lot of people who want that to return. And, they're in a situation where they could prosper a lot if they had a different government there. I mean, they could be a very wealthy, tourist-rich country
Yeah, they could.
And they're missing out on that. And like I said, I as a general rule, going in militarily is something that I treat very tepidly. But a few strikes to weaken that regime might be in order. Kind of related, you brought this up, and I wasn't aware of it. When you sent me the show notes, that Shlomo Kramer, I don't know if I'm saying that correct. He is an Israeli tech entrepreneur, billionaire. His comments about free speech were basically that you're seeing the polarization in countries that allow for the First Amendment and protect it, which is great. I know this is difficult to hear, but it's time to limit the First Amendment in order to protect it, he said, and quickly before it's too late. And he cites the effect of AI being able to manipulate the path of things. This was specifically, I believe, in regard to social media. Okay.
I listened to him. He said it's time for us to change the First Amendment and do something about social media so people can't say whatever they want to.
Yeah.
I mean, it pisses me off. It's like, first of all, you're not an American. What the are you doing talking about our Constitution? Like, get the God. I mean, this is not the United States of Israel. It's not. I know it's easy to mistake that way since all of our politicians are bought off by their organizations, but stop. Like, I'm very supportive of Israel. I really am. I've done a lot of wonderful work. I mean, Israeli people are amazing. I've known so many wonderful Israeli people. I've done a lot of work with Jewish people. I'm very supportive. But what I don't want is some politician from a foreign effing country talking about us making adjustments to our Constitution or our freedom of speech. Get out of our politics and our policy, please.
I'm 100% in line with that. I think the argument is, and it has some validity when you consider when free speech and freedom of the press was first talked about, the idea that one person could instantly affect the opinion of potentially millions of people, potentially with incorrect information, was something that was not considered. Now, with that being said, that does not mean I am a free speech absolutist, because the problem is who polices that? What exactly is the truth in a lot of cases? We went through that with the pandemic. There were a lot of things that people scoffed at that turned out to be true about what happened during that time. A lot of times when we think about, well, people have to speak the truth, in our heads, we formulate these things that are clearly black and white. Like, for example, inciting violence. That's the example that's always used. Clearly wrong. Clearly not covered under free speech. But not everything is that simple. There's I think I've used this analogy before. You might have two politicians, pro and con, on a big dam being built or something like that in a local community. And there's 10 studies that are done. One of them cites 7 of them that show that the study, that this is going to be good, for the area. Mm-hmm. And the other politician cites another 7, another combination, and he skews it towards it's going to be terrible for the environment, it's going to be terrible for the economy. Now, who judges which one gets silenced in that situation? And that's what most topics are. They're not always as cut and dry as right or wrong. They're not. And we can't get into a situation where the flow of information is policed, because who does the policing and how do they know that they are correct? Yeah. It's just too complicated. And I don't feel that we should go there, but go ahead.
No. You got me all excited to say. So I'm a media expert. I've did working with media for 25 years. When I wrote A New American Dream, one of the things I talk about in there is the fact that once television hit people's living rooms, and of course radio, the intelligence services and people like the Mossad from Israel have been using media to manipulate tens of millions of people for decades now, but they're only worried about our freedom of speech when we as individuals can actually speak the truth or influence other people. I mean, come on, things have a way of smoothing themselves out. A lot of people have caught themselves in the last year or so realizing that they're passing on information. People are starting to check themselves. They're starting to catch themselves. Like, allow the natural process to unroll, and people will find voices that are consistently accurate to listen to. And if they want to listen to somebody who's an idiot, they're going to do that anyway. they don't need intervention. If I find it ironic that a billionaire tech person wants to intervene, aren't you already doing that with your technology?
Yes.
I mean, come on, they've been manipulated. Look what happened with Facebook and Twitter and all of that during the closures. Yes. They were literally limiting people's freedom of speech and shoving things that turned out to be absolute effing lies onto people, trying to arrest people for making or throw them in jail or have them lose their jobs for not wanting to take an experimental shot, which turned out not even to be a vaccine in the first place. The whole just get off, please get out of our faces. The idea that you're going to control freedom of speech in this country is absurd.
Well, there's a certain channel that's kind of is very reminiscent of a tube that was very critical of anything regarding climate change, very critical of anything about the pandemic and the solution to it. They just basically did what they want because the excuse was, well, this is a private company. We can do whatever we want. There is no such thing as free speech. The problem is that these entities have become so large and so powerful that they are the only game in town for it to happen. That is what the problem is. If you want to really check into this more, Matt Taibbi and Walter Kern are two of my favorite podcasters. Matt Taibbi is a real professional journalist, and he dug into what at the time was what was called the Twitter files, and how the government at that time, the one that was in power at the time, we won't say which one, but it had a D in front of it, really manipulated what was going on with the flow of information on Twitter. So, I think this is a slope that you don't want to go down. I would like to see a lot more freedom of speech than what there really is on these platforms. But I know the excuse is always, well, they're privately managed, so you can't. They're not like being in the center of your town square. Standing on a soapbox on the top of the steps preaching. You're not that. Mm-hmm. It's not that. So it's muddy water. But for the most part, I am all for the free flow of information, good or bad, because sometimes you don't know what is bad until some time goes by. And a lot of times these quote unquote nutcases were right about a lot of different things over the years.
Yeah. Yeah. After all the truths that have come out in recent years, I'm pretty sure that if they start, I've noticed the changes with the TT app. And I believe that if they push people too far with trying to control, people will know. There's too many people who recognize patterns. We've all learned too much in recent years about all the BS that's been going on for, decades. I believe people will just create their own. We don't need anybody else's permission to commune together, and we don't need, you can create your own Wi-Fi, your own. There's so many the technology now, particularly with AI. You don't need anybody's permission to create a forum where truth is spoken.
You know what I haven't heard a whole lot about lately is the Web3. That was the big thing there a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
everybody Web3, blockchain, and that's gotten really quiet lately. So
yeah.
It has. But anyway, rounding out the discussion, speaking of influence, we would have to talk about Hollywood. They had those Golden Globes, and those things are really starting to look ridiculous. They really are.
It's so it's so disconnected and so out of touch.
Yeah.
And so political. At what point were they going to realize that between all the dumb decisions that they made with putting out, revivals of crap that's been out for, how many Jane Austen movies do you need of Pride and Prejudice? Seriously, get an original idea. Yeah. Between that and the constantly preaching to us and criticizing us and telling us how to behave from their platforms. And then with the award shows turning into that, it's shut up. Yeah. Shut up. We have real problems in this country. We're trying to the average person's working 2 jobs. They don't really care what you have to say anymore. You literally ruined your opportunity by being obnoxious shit.
Well, Hollywood is in a bit of trouble, and a lot of it they can thank themselves for. And these lunatic actors who, I really got to say that the talent in Hollywood is overstated. Mm-hmm. It is very overstated. There's not that many talented people there anymore. You have a bunch of Nepo babies, with mommy and daddy's money that are making these messagey movies that are not that well done. The audience is getting tired of it. They're tired of getting preached to. I would have to say the real detriment to Hollywood is the preaching is certainly part of it, but it's not the only thing. We've known for a long time that some of the best actors out there was dumb as hell. Okay, that's not new. What is new is talking about TikTok and the idea that you can get some very talented people right in the palm of your hand instantly. Well, some of these dancers on TikTok, and I can't dance worth a damn, but never could, even when I was younger. Some of these people that put these dance routines together are much better than what you see on shows. Much better. They just weren't born into it. And then, you have people that are just so talented musically in so many other ways. And you can get that entertainment now. And these people can actually make a good living without messing with Hollywood or any of that music industry bullshit at all. They can make a really good living on these apps. That's hurting Hollywood. Yeah. I think they overinvested in streaming. If you look at some of the business of this, the amount of money that they put into streaming, let's say 5 years ago, that money has not come back. And there's too many ways, the movies are, well, what's on this? It's on Hulu, Bulu, and Zulu. And
yeah, they'll break up a show across 3 or 4 different apps. It's like you can see season 1 and 3 here and 2 and 8. It's nuts.
They knew that they were going to lose the revenue from media, from physical media. And that's something that's been a big blow to them. For example, it used to be when a movie came out, like when Titanic came out, and it was the number one movie. This was like back in 1997. Huge. Okay. 6 months later, a year later, the following holiday season, you had the VHS tape. You had the DVD, whatever. And this was like the second opening in a sense. And, everybody wanted to get a copy so they could, check, come back.
You do that so well.
They don't have that second opening anymore. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times the first opening is soft now because the box office has become so soft. And there is no second opening. It's on a streaming service weeks later, not months, weeks later. And they get pennies for what amounts to pennies in that business for streaming. And quite frankly, I think the CGI has become relied upon so much that it has changed the look of movies. I was on a number of different technical forums about how movies appear very dark now.
Yeah, they do.
They appear very dark. And the reason for this is to mask the CGI and other things that are going to come up. So you don't have a contrast in light and dark scenes. So everything is overcast now. It has a dark look. They're very shallow. There's not a whole lot of depth of field in shots anymore. And I could go on with this, and here again, if you want to research this, a lot of analysts are saying the way movies look now are changing. And Quentin Tarantino, he's kind of an odd character, but he's one of the last. He's one of the last true cinematic directors. He's one of the last. He's one of the last ones.
Yeah.
And he made the point that because we've moved away from film, and we've moved away from composing a shot as if it was photography, and everything gets mapped out in a certain way. If you like in Inglourious Bastards, that first 30 minutes when that character, the German character, is talking to that guy about the Jews that are hiding under the floorboards, the suspense and the way that was shot was extraordinary. And here again, that's the cinematic point of view. And now that everything has gone digital, and here again, this changes the the dynamics of the video portion of the movie. It changes it.
They're also centering things in the middle, like the characters consistently, because they want to be able to crop them for social media, and that's making everything sort of feel the same. And
it translates into TV better. Now, back in the day, TV was 4:3, now it's 16:9, so it translates better. But CinemaScope and all those others, those old guard movies that were really, really wide. Directors like James Cameron and all that, Spielberg once in a while still goes to that. So it fits a little better, but you're right. You still have to crop it. And Quentin Tarantino made the argument now that these are basically, people are going into these theaters to watch TV.
It's so true. It's so true.
You're going in there and you're watching a digital projector. You're essentially watching, like you go to the store, you buy an Epson or something like that, one of those projectors, one of those video projectors for your living room. That's what a movie theater projector is now, except it's a high performance one. It's it's got tons of bright light coming out of it. It'll fill a great big screen, but it's still a video projector. And the movie that you're watching is essentially shot on video. So you're watching a television show. You're watching a really big television show. And it's loaded with, effects that are more reminiscent of video games than they are what were done in movies in years past.
Yeah. I've talked about this with AI. A lot of artists are worried. Involving AI in your art is going to be, it's going to be a big deal. But I get bored very quickly and find most AI art forgettable. And one of the main reasons for that is that everything is energy, and the amount of energy that is put into something gives. So when you look at a Quentin Tarantino shot, the energy and the thought and the creativity that's been put towards it, it just builds and builds and builds, and it adds all of this context and texture to something. And with AI art, it's generated near instantly, and there's such a level of almost over perfection to it that it's actually boring, and it's missing the humanness.
Oh, absolutely, sure.
And that's what I'm seeing with a lot of streaming. It's like, you're just missing the humanness. And do I really want to see somebody's child, Nepo baby, sort of acting? No thanks.
Yeah. You're exactly right. The art of movie making from the days of, let's say, John Ford or William Wyler, any of those types of individuals, those days are gone.
Yeah, Billy Wilder is one of my favorites. Yes. The quality of the acting, I should say, the star power of people. Like when we were growing up, people were stars, even if they weren't necessarily like a Nicole Kidman in the range and the depth of acting. I didn't know so much about them that I couldn't, enjoy their performance and just love them for who they were. We're missing those stars. These younger people coming up, they're like rubber stamps of that character that works every time. Like it's the blonde girl with the fabulous body, or she's the Megan Fox knockoff, or it's like they're all knockoffs of somebody, and there's not a lot of originality going on. And also, I don't want to know that much about you. If I'm supposed to go in a theater and pay $40 for a ticket and some popcorn and a Coke, I want to escape. I don't want to be sitting there thinking, didn't your husband just cheat on you? Like, I just don't want to know.
Yeah. And the stupidity of the comments. And I know people, for whatever reason, to a degree, still like these stars, but the celebrity culture that they once had, the draw that they once had, is starting to wane. And they did it to themselves. Mm-hmm. There were some of the people in the corporate offices made some bad decisions with the streaming. Okay. And I don't know that the stars necessarily had a hand in that. But for the most part, the devaluing of the Hollywood commodity, which for a long time was the envy of the world. Mm-hmm. That's one thing the United States did very well, was movies. The United States movies did extremely well. And I just don't know that anything is that special anymore. And here again, I'm getting back to the politics of this, what California has done with the regulation. And I have friends that are actually did pretty well out in Hollywood for a while, mostly technical jobs. But they say it's getting to the point now where if you want to film let's say an Irish town. Okay, you're better off taking the entire crew to Ireland. Yeah. And building a small community there and using the extras there than you are to do it in a Hollywood backlot, because it's more expensive to do it there because of all the regulations.
Yeah, that California is the shittiest run state for such an amazing state, for such a beautiful state, for such magical things that it had to offer the world for such a long time. I lived there for a while and I was like, oh my God, this place is going to be in trouble soon at the rate that they were going. And I have to add one more thing. The woke thing, like I'm all for LGBT rights. Like I've been fighting, my sister was a lesbian. I've been fighting for them, talking about it for decades and saying, like, I don't understand why this is a problem. But the woke storylines were so awkward because it was like, you see this perfectly wonderful script and this wonderful film, and then they just shove some like woke statement into it, and it was like you weren't transported anymore. You were brought back to politics and opinion, and it was like you just shook me out of your own movie.
Yeah.
Anyway,
100% agree. Cynthia, it's always great. I always shift between shaman and Cynthia.
Everybody does.
So Cynthia, tell us what you're up to these days. Where can people find you?
Yeah. So we've got, the new podcast. I say the new podcast, new season of my podcast, Soul Tech with Shaman Isis, which is has episodes coming out now. We've got a new episode coming out this week, which I'm excited about. You guys can find me at shamanisis.com or, at Shaman Isis on X and on most of the platforms, or Soul Tech with Shaman Isis.
That is fantastic. My name is Billy Dees. You can find the Billy Dees podcast anywhere podcasts are found. Over a 10-year history in the podcast in its current form. So we've been on all the major platforms for a long time. And as far as social media goes, still X, which is the former Twitter, is probably still my social media home at Billy Dees, although we do have a Billy Dees Facebook page, mostly for production of podcasts. So we're on the other ones. And I dabble. Everybody keeps telling me I need to do more of TikTok. And I'm so busy during the week with, working and doing all the things you have to do to keep the lights on. And then my own show. And then I manage a lot of my own show when it comes to guests and that. I just don't have time, to sit down and dedicate a bunch of videos to TikTok, although I am told I'm missing out by not doing so. But I do have a TikTok page. Right now, it's mostly clips from the show, but I am starting to insert some little personal things once in a while. So you can find me on all those platforms, but X is probably the place where I'm most active and where you can find the most latest information about the show. So, all right. Well, thank you everyone for checking us out tonight, and we will talk to you again very, very soon. I'm Billy Dees and host of the self-titled podcast, The Billy Dees Podcast. We are primarily an interview and a commentary-based podcast featuring authors and creators talking about their craft, advocates for community issues, and myself and an array of co-hosts discussing current events. There's no partisan ranting and raving going on here, just great content. You can find the Billy Dees Podcast on your favorite platform and on Twitter at Billy Dees. Thank you, and I hope you listen in.